Please like, comment, and subscribe.
You mentioned before diseases or that people from the new paradigm or in between the paradigms often show up. I have had problems with my stomach all my life, and I'm not sure how to be in dialogue with that sort of manifestation in a healthy way. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Okay. Normally, when we have digestive issues, it's about digesting our own life. I think everyone can also relate to that. The whole stomach area is also part of the body that is connected to our emotions, our feelings. So very often it's the different emotional conflicts that we're experiencing in our interactions with life. And that's basically it for you too. So in your stomach, when you just observe the energy in the area, it's always this feeling that there is something wrong. So it's this kind of like conflict that is quite constant and that you can't seem to find a solution to. That's, as we've been talking about before, it's that structural part. So still, learning to accept, to allow, to understand that any kind of physical manifestation does not mean that there is something wrong. Now, there's one thing I think is extremely important to clarify. In the new spirituality, also like the whole modern spirituality movement, I often say that illness is the new sin. Because in religion, you have the concept of sin and what it means to be sinful. In modern spirituality, how people look at illness and physical symptoms is very close to how religions define sin. And you're supposed to not have any physical illnesses. You're not supposed to have anything of anything because it means that you're out of balance and there's something you haven't understood and nature is punishing you and you're not where you're supposed to be. And like it can have, yes, of course the body will show us our different issues and our karma like everything else in life. But it's the attitude and mindset that it's sinful. It's like when people experience an illness or a physical imbalance, there's a lot of judgment that, that person is not really dealing with his or her karma, I know the type, and it's become almost an accepted way of looking at illness. And it's just religion in a different way. And this obsession with health, I mean obsession and not in a good way, because health is balance. It's, being in your center and dealing with your karma. It's not blocking your karmic expressions, because we all have karma. That's why we incarnate. We incarnate to deal with stuff we haven't learned yet and things we don't know. And that needs to express. And illnesses, are one of the arenas where karma will manifest. So there's nothing wrong or sinful about illnesses. Doesn't mean that you're doing something wrong. We learn through our bodies. We learn through illnesses. I love illnesses. I think they're so beautiful. I see them as art. I have the same experience when I observe illness as I do when I watch art, when I see great artwork, because it's so perfect, it's so tailored to the principles and the spiritual studies of that person. We need to embrace illness and understand that illness, physical manifestation, is part of our path. It's part of how we study because it makes our studies physical. We study through our bodies, ourselves. And what we have to go through as a result of illness is part of the changes we need to go through to grow spiritually. So we need to welcome illnesses, not try to run away from them or think that there is something wrong or sinful. But I mention this because it's become such an established thought in modern spirituality that this obsession about health, meaning that any physical manifestation is terrible, like you should never have any illness and you should live forever. And that is simply survival in the old paradigm. It's a religious way of relating to health. It's about taking control, learning how to control God, defying nature, and, it's still part of the old paradigm. It's still this obsession with survival. How about obsessing about living instead? Being present. Because when you are afraid of illness, afraid of health, you're living in fear. You're not present. You're not in a state of love or acceptance or flow. And it's important because when you work spiritually, when you go through a growth process, health will always be part of it. But we need to get rid of the religious part of how to deal with this. And in the new paradigm, we need to let go of this thought that we shouldn't be, we should never have illness and, we should control everything. We need to let everything surface. And the body is a wonderful, wonderful instrument of communication with life. And letting also illnesses come. Because if you work hard enough, you can block them. You can block the body and always trying to balance everything. But it means that you're also losing track of your own communication because you're basically trying to stop the voice of life to reach you because your karma will not go away. It's not about blocking expressions. That's not how karma dissolves. It's by embracing. It's by allowing. It's living through your blockages and your karma, learning, experimenting, playing. Fear has never led anyone to growth or healing. But I want you to think about this and recognize and think about it and see that in modern spirituality, illness has become the new sin. And free yourself from that way of thinking. You have a body for a reason. And when you're done with it, it's trash. It goes back to nature. It will be recycled. There is nothing wrong with having manifestations in the body. This obsession with balance, as I've explained also with old traditions, where balance is simply constant state of suppressing everything. Believing that if you suppress enough and nothing comes to the surface, you can experience this sense of bliss and balance. And it's false. Balance can only be achieved when you allow everything in its natural state. That does not mean that you should not be working with your health. But I use the term work with your health. Do not try to control it. Life is trying to reach us in so many different ways, and our bodies are definitely kind of the closest to us. And the communication will always manifest. Physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. It's part of our own universe. So embrace health in all its colors and play with it and experiment and heal. But for some people, healing can mean to allow an illness, to not fight it. For someone else, it might be the opposite. It might be fighting it is healing. Everyone's different. But that's the whole point. We're all unique. Our spiritual travels are unique. Each situation is unique. So be open and understand that truth is always different from what you believe it is. And that is what life is trying to show you.